it's Flo, and this is my impression of a traveling lounge singer. And we're going up the airport escalator. Hey, where you from? No response. Classic. Got in an accident, so you gotta take a cab, huh? No cabs at Progressive Service Centers. They got rental cars on site, which is out of sight, you know?
Progressive takes the hassle out of claims. Just drop your car off at one of our service centers and we'll manage the rest.
Here's a little number I like to call Waiting for the Shuttle Bus.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Service centers not available in all areas. You have a choice of repair facilities.
This is the Seahawks Show on the Happy Hour Network.
Touchdown, Seahawks!
Your hosts are Kevin Daggett.
I'm here so I won't get fined.
And Lee Vowell.
I mean, he gets hit in his knees and he's about to cry. Hit me in my leg.
This is the show by Seahawks fans for Seahawks fans.
And Kurtz makes the catch, spins out of one, spins out of two, 10, 5. Touchdown, Seahawks!
Seahawks, the best team in football.
Marshawn gets it, T-Bird 320, 10, 5. Are you kidding me? Touchdown, Seahawks!
And welcome to the Seahawks Show on the Happy Hour Network with Kevin and Lee. Follow us on the Twitter at Seahawks Show and check out Seahawks coverage and more at the3pointconversion.com. This week our guest will be Danny Kelly. Danny is editor at Field Goals, SB Nation's Seahawks site. Also, we would like to thank NGSC Sports and I-95 Sports Network for replaying our show. Much appreciated. Also, you can find us on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and more. So I will unmute Kevin, who's the star of the show. I always think maybe I should just mute myself the entire show and let you have it because it would sound so much better. But how are you tonight?
Please don't.
How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Just got done watching my son's basketball team get beat, but hey, at least they're playing basketball, right?
So how bad did they get beat?
They got beat pretty bad, about 20 points or so.
That's fine. That's not too bad, I guess. I don't know.
No.
So we do have some breaking news. Well, kind of breaking news from today, at least. Thomas Rawls won't need surgery, but is out for the year, of course, after breaking his ankle, tearing some ligaments in his ankle. So he won't need any screws in his ankle or anything like that. So he should be back, next year. Unfortunately, that's a long way off, and we need Thomas Rawls, especially with Marshawn Lynch being out. What was your reaction when you saw? Because I always do this. I'll ask you a question, then I'll start answering it. So I apologize to listeners and you. But it's like, hey, Kevin, tell me what you think, and then I'll tell you what I think. And then Kevin, 13 minutes later, after I'm done with my rant, can answer. But, it was funny because when I was able to see the game, a little bit later on I was able to hear it and then watch it. But when I watched him leave the field, obviously he was injured, but it was hard to tell just how bad he was injured because he was limping, but he was walking. What did you think about that?
Well, when I first saw the play, I saw, he went down, and then I saw one of the Seahawks players, I'm not sure who it was, waving somebody from the sideline on, so I knew somebody was hurt, and I figured it was Rawls because he was the only one at the bottom of the pile. Then he walked off the field, and then he walked into the locker room and was waving at the crowd. I'm thinking, well, it doesn't seem that bad. I mean, obviously he twisted something. Maybe he won't be back for the game, but a fractured ankle and you're walking off the field, I mean, that's a tougher guy than me, I tell you.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was kind of hard to tell how injured he was. Obviously, he broke bones in his ankle. I just, there are a lot of bones in the hands and the feet and the ankles, and it makes you wonder if maybe, it was just a bone that wasn't detrimental to his lifestyle or his livelihood. Well, his livelihood, I guess, but not living. But, it's one of those things where he can't play, unfortunately. And the Seahawks did sign today Bryce Brown. I think they've signed him for the 13th time this season, but it looks like he'll actually get to play now. What do you think about the running game after, obviously, Wilson was a beast again yesterday, but what do you think about the running game? Because I have a couple of questions to ask you before we have Danny Kelly on in about 15 minutes. I'll just throw that at you. But what do you think about the running game after Rawls went out? And do you think Bryce Brown, because he's got some experience with the Bills. Of course, we know him from Tennessee, committed, played, I think, did he even play here a year and then he left? What do you think about Bryce Brown signing?
Well, I think it's going to help. We need another running back. I mean, as far as the running game goes, after Rawls was hurt, I think they played well enough to allow Wilson to have the game he had. You had to still watch the run. I mean, Harris, he's all right. Doesn't have a lot of experience in. Fred Jackson's a respectable runner, so they had to watch it. I think they played well enough to open up that pass game. And Bryce Brown, I mean, who are you going to get? Ray Rice? I mean, he had to get somebody, but hopefully he can come in and do the job. And really the way Wilson's been playing lately, hopefully he can keep that up, and we won't need to rely on the running game as much, because we're not going to be able to rely on the running game as much. I don't think without. I think how fortunate were we to have Thomas Rawls in and do what he did when Marshawn Lynch went down. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think nobody's gonna. I don't think anybody's gonna say he's as good as Marshawn Lynch or he is the second coming of Marshawn Lynch, but he is a very good substitute. That's in my opinion for him. So, as long as we have somewhat of a running game and Wilson keeps doing what he's doing and the receivers keep catching the ball, I think we'll be all right. And hopefully Lynch can be back for the playoffs, and we can do something there if we get in the playoffs. And I'm anticipating we are, but there's always, Johnny Manziel coming to town. So.
Yeah, I mean, even Manziel played well. I mean, we got to give him his due, I guess, yesterday. He played well enough, and they won the game. I mean, they're all professionals. Every team in this league, obviously, is staffed with professional football players. And, any given Sunday, somebody can win. But the Seahawks really should win their next two games, even though Gurley had a huge game against yesterday. They should win their next two games, and really that leaves them against the Cardinals. And by that time, if they win the next two games, they should be in the playoffs. You mentioned Russell Wilson. Another great game, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Obviously playing at elite level, 16 touchdown passes, no interceptions in his last 4 games. You surprised by what Russell's doing, or is it just he's finally caught on? I mean, he's finally got chemistry with the receivers, and the offensive line is playing well enough for him to have time to throw the ball.
I'm not surprised by his performance because he's done it before. He did it. He's done it the last 2 years. I mean, that's just what he's done, and he just seems laser focused. And I don't know what it was beginning of the year. I know the offensive line is playing lights out right now. I mean, you got to give some of the credit to them. And Wilson's getting rid of the ball quicker, and he's making better decisions. And I said it after when Jimmy Graham went down. I'm not a prognosticator or anything, but I did say, I'm like, you know what? I think they might play better without that big guy out there, because Wilson can just throw it to who's ever open. And it seems like that's what's been happening the last few games is he's hitting receivers. He's hitting open receivers, and the receivers are getting open. I don't know if they weren't getting open before and he was missing them, but the receivers are open. He's hitting them. They're catching the ball. And, I think I'm not surprised at all the way he's playing, because he's done it before. I mean, and I wish I've been seeing all kinds of, all over Twitter, all these records he's breaking, and he's the first one to do this and the first one to do this. I wish somebody would put all that in one section so I could see all these amazing things that he's done, because I can't keep track of it. It's like, have I seen that before? I think another guy tweeted that, but I don't know if that was the same thing. And
Yeah, it's a good point, because he's doing so much it's hard to keep up with. I mean, arguably the best 4-game stretch of any quarterback in league history, honestly, because of his quarterback rating and what he's been able to do. As you mentioned, Jimmy Graham going out, and then we've talked about the running backs. So really yesterday was all him. This is, again, Doug Baldwin, 10 touchdown catches in the last 3 weeks is crazy enough. We might as well listen to them. Here they are, Steve Rabel's calls of all 3 touchdown passes by Doug Baldwin. Doug Rabel? What am I saying? Anyway, Doug Baldwin yesterday against the Ravens.
Baldwin wide to the far side on 2nd down and 10. Russell out of the shotgun. Russell has time. Looks, fires to the goal line. Ball's gone. Doug Baldwin, touchdown! Seahawks Doug Baldwin, another touchdown reception. He fights his way into the end zone, and the Seahawks make the Ravens pay for the turnover deep in their own territory. They go on top 13-3. Four-man rush by the Ravens. Russell has time, fires down the middle. Got his man Baldwin. He is in. Touchdown, Seahawks. Doug Baldwin again, 22 yards out, and it doesn't look like there's a defense in the league that can stop Russell Wilson to Doug Baldwin. Seattle goes on top 20-6. Seattle has just broken the 100-yard mark for rushing. In fact, 101 team-wide. Russell takes the shotgun snap. A lot of guys rushing, throws to the end zone. Wide open is Doug Baldwin. Touchdown, Seahawks. The third of the day for Baldwin. From 16 yards out, the Ravens rushed about 18 people, and they couldn't get to the quarterback, and Doug Baldwin made him pay again.
And you texted me right after that play, and you said he really was wide open. I guess he was. I heard it on the radio, and Rabel's call, and then I watched it again, replay last night, and man, he was wide open. What happened on that play?
Well, the defender fell. The defender tripped, but still, the guy tripped because Baldwin put a move on him, and Baldwin still would have been wide open. I mean, he was more open because the guy fell, but there was no way that guy was stopping that play. I mean, he tripped because of his move.
Yeah, the funny thing, I mean, obviously Russell Wilson is playing at a level he's never played at. So is Doug Baldwin. Do you any idea why they thankfully chose this time, these last four games, both to play their best football of their professional lives?
Yeah, I have no idea. I think that Pittsburgh game woke everybody on that team up because, you know, they've been playing well since then, and I don't know if that was the case, but the game seemed to be a turning point for this team. And I don't know if it was because they won a high-scoring game, and even though Ben Roethlisberger threw for 3,000 yards on them, they still won the game. I mean, I don't know, but it seems to be since that. I mean, you know, they're whooping people. I mean, their offense. This is not an offensive-minded team. I don't know where all this stuff's coming from, but maybe they are now. I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of stuff I see now, it's the Steelers that's the team you don't want to play. And I'm like, wow, the Seahawks just beat them. So really it was almost two of the hottest teams in the league right now played each other, and the Seahawks. So I'm thinking, you know, again, they gave up tons of yards passing, as you just pointed out, to Roethlisberger. They still only gave up one touchdown passing. So I think, you know, that as bad as the raw numbers look for the Seahawks in that game, it's almost like they played really well because they only gave up so much, and they won the game 39-30. So, you know, I'm starting to look at that as more of a positive than a negative, just because they got beat, yeah, but the Steelers have beaten everybody since then the same exact way. And Roethlisberger is one of the better quarterbacks, but he got beat by Wilson really in that game, and Wilson's outplaying Roethlisberger and really outplaying everybody else in the league at this point. I mean, the Seahawks are now 8-5. They've won 5 of 6. They currently have the number 5 spot in the wild card standings because the Vikings lost to the Cardinals. You know, if everybody wins out, which probably won't happen, of course, but if everybody wins out, the Seahawks would have the top spot in the wild card standings, which means they would probably play the NFC East leader, who in the NFC East is. I mean, I'm confident the Seahawks can beat anybody, even the Panthers, who looked great yesterday. But I think the Seahawks, if they play their game, can beat anybody on the field the way they're playing right now. But the NFC East, I probably shouldn't say that because they'll probably get blown out 42-7 for no reason. But the Seahawks, the way they're playing right now, I mean, compared to what we saw with the Panthers 38-0 yesterday over the Falcons. I mean, that's a great game, right?
Yeah, they could. I think Seahawks can beat anybody if they keep playing the way they're playing. And you know, I've heard a couple people say, I can't remember who it was, but the people that get paid to do this stuff, they say that the two teams you don't want to play the Steelers in the AFC, you don't want to play the Seahawks in the NFC. And somebody even said that's going to